Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this new conversation, the Elevated Conversations. I wanted to welcome our speaker today. Her name is Hui Hui Lek, and it is an honor and a privilege, Hui Hui, to have you. The way I know of you is from, actually, I don't know if you remember in 2021, whenever we would have any of the events like Time to Thrive or the World Summit, you would always do beautiful notes for us, right?
Yeah.
That made such an impact. Like I had an immediate connection with you, and it is such an honor. I am so eternally grateful that I get to talk to you one-on-one. Thank you so much for giving me this time.
Appreciate you.
The way I again got reminded of you was because of the Own Your Future Challenge. Dean Graziosi played your video, and immediately whatever you said, the story, I was so, intrigued by it. I was like, I need to have a conversation with this woman. So let me get started. So I know if you, both of us started Own Your Future and Project Next in 2021, right?
Yep.
So tell me what was life before 2021, the Project Next, and how did you roll into the Project Next?
Sure. First off, Poonam, I just want to say appreciate you for having me here. Thank you so much. And I look forward to be able to give value to your audience in this next hour or so. So what was life for me before 2021? I was not in this industry at all. I wasn't a coach, right? And I wasn't even on social media for 8 years. Prior to COVID, I was actually a retailer. I was a children's shoes designer. In fact, we have a retail business, and we were doing pretty comfortable at that time. It's just that during COVID, right? When COVID hit, and it actually affected 80% of my business because of the pandemic lockdown. And at that time, right, when I was building my retail business, I actually had a secret wish. Back in 2009. I actually wanted to be a speaker, a trainer, and a coach, but I kept that wish very secret because I didn't think that it was possible for me at that time, and also because those conditions in Singapore were not conducive for me being a speaker or a coach. And at that time, the industry wasn't even that developed yet, at least around me and in my environment. So I put that dream aside for a really, really long time while I was building up my retail business. So we were doing pretty well in our retail business. I grew my retail business from 0 to 6 figures in 2 years, right? And we have been doing that for 11 years prior to COVID. But when COVID hit, right, it just wiped out 80% of our business because most of what we were doing were offline. And so during that time, in 2020, when the pandemic just started, we were trying to pivot our business online, but it wasn't that easy because we had a lot of goods coming in from China, but at that time, many factories that I was working with, they all closed down, and China wouldn't allow goods to be shipped out. So that my business just totally just shut down, right? And I was actually pretty lost at that time. So I was wondering, what can I do if I have to pivot online? What choices do I have, right? And that was the time when I started remembering that, hey, I actually had this dream to become a speaker, a trainer, and a coach. Yeah, and that was when I started to attend a lot of online seminars, workshops, challenges, right? Trying to see what people were doing until I stumbled upon the Own Your Future Challenge where I met you, right? But prior to that, I think one of the videos, I think the video that you were talking about at that time, for Own Your Future Challenge this year, where Dean featured me on the first day of the challenge, right? I was sharing the story of just 4 months before I attended the Own Your Future Challenge this year, back in May 2021. Just 4 months before that, I was talking to a six-figure coach. She was the only six-figure coach I knew at that time. And during that, because I wanted to be the speaker, trainer, and coach, right? So I thought maybe I could ask her opinion, right? Poonam, when we want to try something, right? sometimes you want to seek an opinion of someone first, right?
Mhm.
So that's what exactly I did. So I asked her, but she looked at me sternly, and we were doing this over Zoom. She looked at me sternly in the eyes and said, Hui Hui, you're so shy and introverted, you can't speak well, and you don't even have a social media following. Who are you to become a coach? You know, Funam, can you imagine if someone said that, and someone in authority, someone who has been there and done that, right? And to say that, right, it was just like really a knife just pierced through my heart. And at that moment, right, my entire dream was just dashed, right? And I went into depression for 4 months after that, because I thought that this thing that I had for 11 years, it will never be realized. It can never come to fruition. And and if not for the Own Your Future Challenge in May 2021, right, when Dean said, you only need to be one chapter ahead. If I didn't hear those 3 words, right, I probably wouldn't have just seized the opportunity, right, and get into Project Next and just study like mad, right, and try to do everything I could in order to kickstart this entire business. So that's the gist of it, right? But it was such a lot of ups and downs during this journey.
So did you ever go back to the coach and let them know that you have turned yourself into a successful speaker? You speak so incredibly well. I mean, so clearly and very, very clear. I mean,
Thank you.
nobody would know that you were shy and introverted back in 2021 or a little before 2021. So it's like a complete transformation. So let me look at, so then how did you start building, once you did the Project Next coursework? Did you do additional stuff with Dean, like he sells Project Next Level? Did you sign up for Project Next Level?
Oh, well, you know, success leaves clues, right? So it's always important for us to model the people who have been there and done that. So, yeah, I got into Project Next, and then subsequently, I was in Project Next for Project Next level for a while, and eventually, I also got other coaches because I wanted to be able to find out how exactly I should be doing, how I should actually be growing my business to the first milestone that I wanted, which is 100K.
Okay.
And then eventually to be able to hit 7 figures. So what I did at that time, right, in order for me to build my brand up, it was funny because I wouldn't even at the very beginning, right, the only brand I have was possibly I call it the 3Ds. My dreams were dashed, right? I was devastated and I was depressed. Okay, it was just so horrible when I first started. But what I realized is one of the things that Tony Robbins said, right, is that if you can consistently show up for your audience, right, if you can actually give more value than anyone else in the market, right, people will start to notice you. I'm just paraphrasing what he says, okay? And if you can do that consistently, right, giving more value than anybody else in the market, that's when you build a brand. And so with these words in mind, right, that's when I started thinking, okay, I'm not just giving people my notes out, because the reason why I gave my notes, is it all right if I share the reason why I was sharing my notes?
Most definitely, most
Yes,
definitely.
yeah, because being a retailer for 11 years, right? When the pandemic came, during the lockdown, it was seriously very hard for many retailers, because we had to pay our rentals, right? Even though our shops were closed, and many times the landlords, they were heartless, they were merciless, right? They didn't think that even though the shops are closed, even though there's no business, even though nobody comes to the shops, even when we can open the shops, but nobody comes in anyway, right? But they still want rent. They are not willing to share the hardships. Okay. And so I was inside this Facebook group for retailers. And one day, in 2020, right, that was I think April, May 2020, that was like the height of the lockdown. I saw this message by a fellow retailer, right, that he said that his wife just attempted suicide because the landlord was clamping down on them so hard that they see nowhere out. So when I saw that message, right, I was thinking, who will, she must be feeling so hopeless and so desperate that she wanted that she would actually leave behind her family, her kids, her spouse, her parents, right? And I could really feel her hopelessness and her sense of desperation at that time, because I mean, I was in the same dire situation as well. Maybe not as bad as them, right? But I could feel exactly how she felt. And so when during the Own Your Future Challenge in May 2021, right, as I was doing the notes and I was listening to what Dean and Tony said, right, I was thinking about this couple. I was thinking back about this couple. What if at that time they had known that there's something that they could do, that they can actually take the expertise, the experience, and their passion, right, and turn that into an online business? What if they could just take whatever that they could and pivot online, right? What if someone could show them the way?
Mhm.
And even if they don't have the funds for it, what if they could just attend the free challenge, right? And if my notes could make it easier for them, simpler for them, make it clearer for them on the exact steps that they could take, how wonderful would that be? And how many people would we be able to help so that no one was left behind during the pandemic? That was why even though every day I spent about 4 to 5 hours, sometimes up to 6 hours to create those notes, I was very willing to do it because I had that couple in mind as I was doing it, right? And many people during that time also sent me messages saying that during the pandemic they lost their jobs, saying that they had to work 2 jobs, or maybe their parents were in hospital, the kids were in hospital, they themselves were in hospital because of COVID, right? And they couldn't attend the challenge. And so I was very touched by many hundreds and hundreds of messages that I received, and that was what made me persevere throughout all the days of creating those notes. And after I realized that the impact that it was making with these notes, right, that's when I thought, it is, how can I show up even more? How can I show up even more for the people that I truly love? Because I can feel them, I can see them, and I can see that as you're starting a business, right? I'm in business for 19 years, right? And in the first 6 years of entrepreneurship, there were many times when I had no money. There were times when I was like walking home because I only had 20 cents in my bag, right? And 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 I didn't have a mentor, I didn't have a strategy, I didn't know what to do, right? So if I could show people what to do and take my experiences and help them to start an online business, help them to start a coaching business, to become a coach, right? I thought that would be amazing. So in the first 3 months, even though I was just one chapter ahead, right, I started to give free classes to people within my Facebook group.
Awesome.
And for an hour every day, right? And so that's all I did. Just give free value and free value and free value, and that's something that I still do until now, where I am doing a 7-day course creation challenge every month or every other month, right? Where I give free value to the people who wants to start an online coaching business. Yeah. So if you want to be able to build a brand, right, it all starts from there first, giving some value in advance, right?
Mhm.
And then after that, that's when you start to do it consistently enough, right? People start to notice you, and eventually they want to know more about you.
I feel, you tied it into, so this group that we've gone Facebook Live in is Eckhart Tolle. It's based on Eckhart Tolle's teachings. And he teaches something called outflow determines inflow. So when Tony Robbins said, the more value you give, and so many people kind of misunderstand Dean Graziosi and Tony Robbins, they say, oh, they're asking us to give our money or give our rent money or whatever, right? But I don't think that's what they're saying. What they're saying is fine, just exactly what you said. You don't have to have anything. It's just notes. You just have one computer, and on the computer, you're creating notes. And that simple thing got you into this abundance of the universe, right?
Yep.
The more outflow there is more inflow, right?
Yep.
So
Exactly.
you connected there, and you realize, and that's kind of like a magical feeling, like when the joy is there of, oh, I gave and it's fine. I mean, I'm feeling so much joy out of the giving, right? I
Yep.
don't need anything
Yeah,
from
yeah, right.
anybody. I don't need anything from anybody. This joy feeds,
Mm.
like the feeling
It
is
is. It
so
is.
ecstatic, euphoric, that I don't
Yeah.
need anything else, right? So
Yep.
that's what you connected to, I feel. Let
Yep.
me see.
Yep.
After that, what were your obstacles after 2021 that you encountered? Like in
Oh,
building this brand that Dean said did you do $1 million in business last year or something like that? That's
yeah,
what you
I
said,
did.
right? So how did
Yeah.
you,
Yeah.
what were the obstacles you encountered between there 2021 to 2023?
Oh wow, so many, so many. Right now, from the start all the way until now, right, we've made close to 1.8 million in revenue already, right? And
Congratulations.
thank you, thank you. And the thing is, when I first began, right, a lot of people actually, and I share this story as well. And in fact, if you want to go to see the list of all the obstacles I had, right, you can go to my Facebook profile, and that's on my pin post. That's my list of almost more than 10, 20 obstacles that I actually faced. But when I first began, right, just to come back to what you were saying just now, that you thought I was speaking well, but when I was doing my first Facebook Live, and it was just about 20 months ago, right? My first Facebook Live, it was about 5 minutes, and I choked halfway through. I was like gasping for air because I was so nervous that I had forgotten to breathe. And that was how I started. Okay. And my very first workshop that I did for 3 hours, I was so nervous the night before. I couldn't sleep. And basically before I even started the workshop, right, I entertained the thought of canceling it because I was so nervous. My entire body was shivering. I mean, it was uncontrollable, right? I used to suffer from panic attacks
Right.
7 years ago, right? And I went into that state where I was so nervous, my body was just shivering and shivering. So that was how I began, right? But my biggest obstacle when I first began was actually my first milestone. This is when I set the goal to make my first 100K in 100 days. And the day that I decided to become a coach, right? The second day, I received a call from my mom that my dad was hospitalized.
Well, I'm so
And it
sorry to
wasn't
hear
looking
that.
good. Thank you. Yeah. So the thing is, at that time, I was torn because I just placed a huge deposit for a coaching program, right? And I was wondering, should I take back that deposit, right? Can I still continue to be a coach? Because I don't know what's going to happen, right? So for the next 30 days, I was actually spending a lot of my time in a hospital with my dad. I moved back home as well to stay with my mom because I was worried about her. And I was just shuttling between home and looking after my dad because at that time, only two people, me and my sis, were allowed to visit my dad because of the pandemic. And so, and during that time, right, I was just torn. I had a dream. I wanted a goal to hit my 100K in 100 days. But Kunal, when you're faced with this hard decisions, right? What do you choose? Would you choose family or would you choose business? Right. So for me, family is the most important to me, right? My parents were they raised me up, so I love them so much. So there's no other choice. I have to choose family first. And so that's what I did. So for the first 30 days, right, of when after I decided to be a coach, I was just spending time with my dad. And every single those few hours when he was having his some procedures or checkups in the hospital room where he was in, I was writing my first program. And I took a photo of myself doing this, writing my program, right? Just as a reminder to myself that one day, should I become successful in my coaching business, right? I'm going to take this photo and I'm going to use this story as an inspiration to myself and also to my audience to tell them that if I can do it, right, so can every single one of you. And most importantly, the reason that you think you can't is the reason that you absolutely must. So the reason that I thought I couldn't do this business, the reason that I thought I couldn't continue is precisely the reason why I must do it. Is because I want my dad to be proud of me. I want my dad to know that I'm making an impact in the world. And so, of course, my dad has recovered since then. But immediately after he was discharged, I took my goal, this 100K in 100 days, and I ran the fastest and the hardest that I ever ran in my entire life. So, and that was how I eventually hit this 100K goal in 70 days. And
Wow.
and it was amazing. It was amazing milestone, but I worked so hard to achieve that first milestone. And eventually I set my next milestone, 250K, 500K, 750K, and then eventually I hit my my first million in about less than 12 months. So a lot of obstacles along the way, right? And you know, when I've in about my fourth month, because now I have got 150 clients all over the world, right, in more than 30 countries. But when I first began, right, my English was my English was considered pretty good in Singapore, right? However, speaking to people all around the world, right, trying to understand all the different accents around the world. There's American accents, British accents, there's Australian accents, right, and there's all the different European accents, and then there is the South American accents, right, and then there's the Asian accents. Trying to understand everyone and trying to speak in a way that I could be understood by everyone. It was a very difficult learning process for me to be able to articulate very carefully and to be able to practice in a way that everyone can understand me and I can understand everyone during my coaching calls. And so in the fourth month, right, I actually broke down in one of the breakout sessions during one of my calls on when I was attending an NLP course. And I was sharing with the people in my breakout room that it was so tough. It was so tough for me to speak English well in a way that people could understand me. And I was almost on the verge of giving up because I had to have 120% focus in order to be able to understand every single accent. So these are just some of the obstacles that I had to go through. But I believe that as long as all of us allow ourselves to be bad, right, when we first begin, eventually we can all become good, because every master was once a disaster. Okay. And I always tell myself that it's okay if I'm bad when I first begin, as long as I'm willing to practice, as long as I'm willing to improve myself, and as long as I am always on the pursuit of mastery, eventually one day I'll be able to get there.
Beautiful, beautiful. This is incredible. Thank you so much for sharing this, because I would never know that you had, from the way you're speaking now, the clarity and the way you are articulating right now, and your phonetics are so clear, and the emphasis on the words that you need to emphasize is so perfect. The cadence is so perfect. I would never have known that there's an issue with speech, like that you choke up or anything of that sort.
Yeah.
So that is incredibly amazing. So how did you overcome it? How did you get to this sophistication of how you speak now?
10,000 hours.
10,000 hours of practice?
10,000 hours of practice. Yeah, I always believe that it's just about repetition. repetition is the mother of all skills. So it's just how many opportunities can I get to practice and practice and practice. Yeah, so every single opportunity that I can get, right, I'll just seize it and practice. And that's how I eventually get better. So I've clocked in thousands of hours of coaching, both one-on-ones and group coaching
Okay.
now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Then what was the investment from 2021 to now? What is the investment? So I want to show people where can they start. Like you were saying that you were not even into any kind of self-education or doing any kind of coaching, but now you transformed yourself, right? So that transformation, because we are in a spiritual group, that requires actually some kind of spiritual inner transformation. It's not nothing like, I did, I did, I do and do and do. And yeah, this magic happened and now I'm abundant. There's like an probably indescribable transformation that you have to make within. So I want you to take yourself, what was Hui Hui in 2021, and what is all the transformation you went through personally, and what did you do investment wise into your own self-education? Not only like okay, I'm gonna go coach other people and train other people. Talk about how did you transform yourself so that people know what does it take to actually be this successful. Thank you.
Appreciate you for so I totally believe in the spiritual side of things, right? And Tony Robbins said something about this before. Success is 80% psychology and 20% strategy, right? So and my company is called Inner World Training, okay? Because I believe that everything starts from our inner world first before we can actually create the outer world results. The outer world results are just consequences, the results of what we did in our inner world. So if we are talking about in terms of business, right, our business can only grow to the extent that we grow. Because ultimately, I don't, and the reason why I love business, because business to me is a spiritual game. And if we can grow ourselves internally, our business will grow externally as well. So it's manifested in our results. It's manifested in the amount of money that we make. It's manifested in the relationships that we have. But it all starts from within. So back in 2021, right? As I was telling you about the coach, right, who told me that I couldn't do it, and then I went into depression. There was a point in time, right, when I didn't realize that I was in depression. And it was about a month before the May 2021 Own Your Future Challenge, right? I was having lunch with a friend and at a shopping mall. And that it wasn't a huge mall, but after that lunch, right, with her, I was trying to get out of the shopping mall. But after walking for almost 20 minutes, I couldn't find the exit. And I was shocked at myself. I was wondering what exactly happened to me, that I was in such a daze. I was walking around like a corpse, emotionless, alive, but emotionless. And I wasn't even like living. I wasn't even living. So that was a huge wake-up call for me, because where did I go? Where did the Hui Hui who built her business go? Where did the Hui Hui who went overseas to and despite all of the obstacles, right, managed to build her business up? Right? Who was the relentless person who never gives up? All of that was just gone from me during that period of time. And so because of that, I realized that I was in such a low vibrational space that the very first thing I needed to do, right, was get out of that space. So I did a few exercises where I started to let go of all my low vibration and energies, right? And after 7 exercises of that, that's when I started to feel a little bit lighter, started to feel a little bit more joyful, started to feel more more hopeful. And even my footsteps were lighter, and that was the start of, and that was when Own Your Future Challenge came into my life as well. So that it all began from there, right? Understanding that all of us are made of energy. And if we hold on to heavy energies, if we hold on to guilt, blame, shame, all of these heavy energies in our lives, right, then there's no way we can fly, right? So in order for us to create something new, in order for us to bring in something new in our lives, we first have to let go of all the old. And sometimes letting go of all that old, letting go of that blame, shame, guilt, and all of that, right, is also starts with forgiveness. Forgiving what we have done in the past, forgiving what has happened, right? Forgiving the people who did it to us, right? All the things that we did to ourselves. Okay. And once we can let go of all of that, right, that's when our energies start to be lighter, right? I mean, just saying it from a spiritual point of view, since your audience are spiritual, right? Okay. I hope that's not too woo-woo for you guys.
No,
Yeah.
not at all. We constantly talk about forgiveness. Actually, Eckhart Tolle in The Power of Now, at the end of chapter 10, which is the last chapter of The Power of Now, he says forgiveness is something that, I'm paraphrasing here, forgiveness is something that people have misused for 2,000 years. Forgiveness is knowing that no matter what was done to you or what you did to another, your radiant essence was never touched. When you come to that realization, then that is true forgiveness. Then the questioner asks, when will I know that I have truly surrendered? Because the chapter is on surrender. And he says, when you no longer have that question. So surrender, I feel there is a lot of allowing and surrender, just knowing that life is unfolding exactly how it needs to unfold, right? Like just like you talked about your father being hospitalized. At that point in time, because of your surrender, look what the universe brought in the next 70 days.
Yeah.
What miracle it brought, right? What if you would have resisted and said, oh, my life is all wasted just because I can't live out my the infinite potential that is within me. I cannot live that out. How wasted is my life? If you were to sit and wallow in that self-pity, right? That toxicity of that self-pity and say my month is wasted, and then not make an effort the next 70 days, then nothing would have happened, right? So I feel it is really, really what you said about guilt, shame, and blame. And Eckhart's interpretation of that is our ego tries to strengthen itself by bringing those thoughts of guilt, shame, blame, and resentment, you know, like somebody did something when we were 5 years old, or somebody did something when we were 8 years old, and we are holding on to we had like 30, 40 years now, and we've held on movie making, story making, right? We repeated that story over and over again. So he says, drop it like a hot piece of coal. That's an advice he gives in The Power of Now. So tell me more about what was it? So you got over your depression, but what is the transformation? Because I've seen you talk about your NLP training, right? So tell me more about that. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. So one of the things that I teach my clients as well, and I do myself, is I have two obsessions. I obsess over two things, right? The first one that I obsess over is growing myself. The second one I obsess over is getting my client results. So obsessing over myself, right? Obsessing over my speaking skills, obsessing over my coaching skills, right? So that I can help to transform the lives of my clients, to help them break through to the next level, which is why I take NLP, which is why I constantly upgrade myself, right? And which is also why I invest in mentors and coaches, right? So that I can learn the latest strategies and to be able to implement that into my business, and then be able to teach my clients to do the same. And of course, I also invest in not just getting better at what I do, but I also think about how can I repeat them so that eventually I master the skills. So to me, right, it's all about mastery, and I want to be able to not just get good at it, but I want to get extraordinary at what I do, because in the market, right, only when you can become extraordinary at what you do will you eventually um, be known for being the expert, because nobody gets I mean, the market rewards people who are extraordinary but doesn't reward people who are just average, right? So if we can all strive towards becoming exceptional at what we do, right, that will eventually help us. I mean, even if the market, and we don't need to have millions and millions of people in our market. What I'm talking about is, even if we're just being exceptional and extraordinary to 100 people, that's already a very good business. That's already a very good business, right? As a coach, right? If you've got 100 clients, right, and you're exceptional to them, that's already a very good business. I'm not talking about being able to influence millions and millions of people here, right? And so, and that's what I try to do. So in this during this period, right, from 2021 to 2023, all I was thinking about is where else can I grow? What else do I need to do in order for me to become better at what I do? Right. So every single aspect of my business, I try to go in and examine what did I do well, right? What didn't I do well? How can I improve the next time, right? And what are some of the lessons that I'm taking away from this? So if I'm doing an event, I'll ask myself these 4 questions. If I'm doing a challenge, I'll ask myself these 4 questions. When I'm creating a program, right, I'll ask myself these 4 questions as well. So that's how I'm constantly obsessing about growing myself, right? So that I can eventually, from a tactical point of view, right, how I can actually make what I do better, right? And the thing is, as I start to invest in myself, by growing myself this way, right, then I realized one of the things is, there this is a never-ending journey. It's a never-ending journey, right? And so, but more importantly, right, it's about understanding that the goal of growing myself, right, is not because it's not just because I want to grow my business, but understanding that growing myself, right, leads to internal joy, leads to internal fulfillment, right? And it leads to that kind of, feeling a sense of achievement within myself, that I want to do more again. And I think many people don't realize that that's the intrinsic value of growth. Yeah, and when you can really get obsessed with that intrinsic feeling of happiness, of growth, right, of feeling a sense of achievement when we grow ourselves, right, I think more people will want to do personal development and want to obsess over growing ourselves, right? Because ultimately, everything that we do is a spiritual journey. Everything that we do, yeah,
Mind-blowing.
And that's what I believe in.
Mind-blowing. Thank you. So grateful for that. Yet to be in joy of our intrinsic, what we are bringing, that intrinsic joy is what is the motivating factor of doing the repetition, right? And
yes,
what I feel, when we are doing that, we don't even feel like it's an effort.
Exactly.
Right, work doesn't become an effort. Like what I do for my Facebook group, I have a full-time job, but I do this on the side, right? What I do for them, it never feels like an effort. It just feels like the joy is flowing, right? The more I give, like you said, like fall in love with the outcome of your client, right? Fall in love with what is going to be their result, right? Fall in love with their result. And the moment you fall in love with their result, there's nothing else. Like the more you see them transform, right? The more the intrinsic joy comes through, and that's sufficient, right? So
exactly. Funam, recently, one of my clients, after after I share my story about the 100K in 100 days, right? A few of my clients, they also told me that they want to set the same goal and do the same. So now three of my clients have already achieved this goal to hit their first 100K, and two of them did it in 100 days. And I've got a fourth one who is on his way to hit their 100K as well. And this I just want to share this story because when the beauty of the coaching business, right, is that we get to impact other people's lives, that we get to do something, we get to teach them in a way that that changes their lives. So for this client of mine, right, he has this dream for many years to own his own home, to own his own house, right? And for a long time he wasn't able to do that for his wife. And so after he started to do his coaching business, he started his coaching business and started to transform, right? Now they're living in a landed property, and he's so happy every day as he's doing it, right? And it's not just the money, right? But it's having that confidence, that knowing that I know what to do to make my next 5-figure month. I know what to do to make my next 6-figure year, right? So with that level of confidence in them, right, their face is different, right? The way they show up is different, right? And it really warms my heart every single time when I see the wins of my clients, right? Even if they're just, right, I got my first paying client for $3,000. We have our clients share the wins all the time inside our group, right? When I see things like that, right, it just really makes me really happy. And sometimes when I know what they have gone through in order for them to hit these milestones, it's not just heartwarming, but sometimes I cry as well, because knowing that what I did is making an impact on their lives, knowing what I did is it's not just a good deed, but it is good dharma, right? I just feel that it is all worth it for me to wake up 3 a.m., 4 a.m. On Sundays. I've been doing that for the last 18 months to attend my coaches' calls. Worth it for me to be working 7 days a week when I first began in my first 12 months in order to grow my business. It's all worth it in the end when I see the results of my clients, that they are able to change their lives, and that when they were depressed initially, but now to having that confidence that their life is changed, that they now have this skill within them to do what they want, right? And to take their passion, their expertise, and turn that into an online business. I think that is one of the most fulfilling things that I can ever feel. In my entire 19 years, I've never felt this way until I started this business.
So you're finally living your infinite potential, right?
I think so. I hope so. I know. I mean, I'm still curious what the future brings, right? But I'm living the best that I can right now.
Beautiful, beautiful. Any last minute advice? Any last minute wisdom? I know it's getting close to the top of the hour, so I want to give you some time to talk about anything that you want to say last minute, and any I know I put the link to your website and the promotion that you're running, all that in the whenever the link got posted, and I'll do the same thing when I post the video on YouTube. But any last minute wisdom?
Yeah, one of the things that I share, right, it's that there are 3 things that I always talk about, right? Impact, influence, and income. Okay, impact is being able to impact people's lives. Influence is when you have done your impact long enough and consistently enough, right? Eventually, you will be able to get to a stage where you're able to influence people and become the thought leader in your space, right? And then the last one is income. Many people get the sequence of it wrong, right? Thinking that I'm going after the income first. But however, in the coaching space, right, in this industry and in this age right now, we got to start with the impact first. we got to start with giving value first, right? And if we can consistently give value enough, that's when we're going to have influence. And once we can start to have influence, right? When and I want to be able to give you a little story about that. That's when eventually you'll be able to get to the stage of income, right? And what happened was in 2021, I was an affiliate for Tony and Dean's Own Your Future Challenge, right? And at that time, I wasn't in that competition. I wasn't even in the top 50 because that was when I started, right? I had no impact. I had no influence. In last year, in 2021, in 2022, right, I became top 13 in that competition after doing 1 year of consistently showing up, consistently giving out value, right? I had a little bit of influence. This year, in Tony and Dean's affiliate launch, again, I emerged. Finally, I emerged top 4, right?
Wow.
And because of this, I get to last year, because of being in the top 13, right? I get to see Dean Graziosi in his office in person, right? In just a 20-person mastermind. So that was one of my wishes fulfilled. This year, because of getting into top 4, right? I'm going to be able to see Tony Robbins in person in a very small group mastermind next year. So this is only possible because I start to my influence has grown. So the more we impact people, the more our influence will grow and the more our income will eventually grow. So if we can get the sequence of these 3 right, that's when we're going to have infinite income. That's when we'll be able to have infinite impact and influence. So I just want to be able to share this as last words for your audience. And if they want to be able to get my free ebook, right, on how I make my first 250K in my coaching business, love for them to be able to visit my website, huihuilek.com, right, or just connect with me on my Facebook, Hui Hui Lek, right? Just search for my name, Hui Hui Lek, and connect with me, right? I write a lot of posts on my Facebook, right? And I also have a free Facebook group called Inner World Tribe, where I share lots of free resources with my audience on coaching as well as course creation. So if you're thinking to become a coach, if you're thinking to want to impact people's lives, right, and be able to live life on your own terms as well, welcome you to join my Facebook group, because that's where we have a lot of free resources for you to start living the life on your own terms.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much, Hui. Eternally grateful for this conversation. There was nothing more like what unfolded today was like perfect, what was needed, right? For people to see that you don't need to be Tom Cruise, or you don't need to be whoever, Kim Kardashian to be successful, right?
Yeah.
You can become extraordinary by just doing that, right? Find what your
Exactly.
what is an impact that you're going to create,
Yes.
and allow that to convert into an influence, that you're influencing that many groups of people, and that will create your income or your abundance. And that's what you're looking for. And that's right. As simple as that. That formula is as simple as that. So,
as simple as that. Yes.
Have a fantastic day, Hui. It was an honor
Appreciate
and a privilege. You. So grateful, so grateful. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Much love.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Honored.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Have a good day.
Take care.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.